I'd been thinking a lot about the things that we don't tell the truth about, and had been thinking about situations where honesty may not be the best policy, and was eager to do a show all about lying, about situations where there really is a cost not only to lying, but a cost also to telling the truth, where we would be looking at times when perhaps honesty is not the best policy. And I very quickly did some research and came across the work of Dr. Paul Ekman, who is the scientific advisor to the show. And what I found in his research was this entire science of lying, this science of deception detection.
In 1967 and 68, I went to the highlands of New Guinea to find people who had no contact with the outside world, because the argument was still between Darwin, who had said expressions are universal, everyone has the same, and Margaret Mead, who said, no, they're different in every culture, just like language is. And what I found was that the gestures, things like this, are very culture specific. They are a true body language, but the facial expressions of emotion are universal.
DOD friend of mine said this guy's a total nut job, but he spent like 3 years in the African jungle with some primitive tribes studying their eyebrows.
That science itself is broken into many different components and involves body language and physiognomy, the study of the mouth.
It wasn't really just lie detection, but it was the ability to read concealed emotion in the face. And it always seemed like a great idea for a TV show.
David Nevins and I tossed it around, and we thought about it, we talked to writers about it, and we didn't ever quite figure out what the show was.
And Sam had apparently come to the idea independently. I didn't pitch it to him, but his agent happened to know my interest in Paul Ekman. When he heard the idea from Sam, put us together, and Sam had come in with a much more sort of holistic approach, where it was not just a technique he used in law enforcement, but much more expansive than that.
Paul Ekman is the leading expert in the world at this particular skill. And I reached out and met with Paul Ekman.
I got a visit from Imagine TV and from Sam Baum, the executive producer, and they came up to Northern California where I live.
I mean, everybody says this about Paul. When you meet Paul, you're worried that he's reading your face. And he kind of comes shuffling out, and he's kind of very barrel-chested and broad-shouldered, and was very curious about what our ideas were, and I think very skeptical of Hollywood, and had some not great experiences.
But the more we talked, the more I saw that they were interested in doing something that was serious. Sam gave me a script he had written, not for this show, but for a theatrical production, and I was very impressed with the writing and the quality of the thinking. So we spent another day or two talking, and then I became convinced that this was an opportunity to not just entertain, but to educate people.
When I first pitched the show to Fox, I pitched it as a show about someone who was in a perpetual state of too much information.
I felt from the moment the show was pitched that it was likely to go to a series.
Well, I thought the script was fantastic. I thought it was a flawless pilot, actually. So it was very exciting, and when we went in on our meeting for us to get the job, we had a short list of people who we thought would be great for the role, and Tim Roth was at the top of that list.
And we were told, no way, no how, you're never gonna get Tim Roth. Don't bother.
And we asked him to do the show, and he said no.
Oh, I'm sorry, I really am.
We needed someone who was fiercely intelligent and had a wry sense of humor and had a sense of mystery to him. You know, it was important that this be an actor who doesn't give everything away.
We stayed after Tim and kept going back, and I kept having conversations with his agent all along the way.
I think I got about halfway through it, and I thought, no, I'm not ready yet to do this. Intense fear kicked in. And then I went on vacation, and I was traveling around with my family. My younger boys are 13 and 11, and I'd been traveling so much on my own, filming and being away for months and months at a time from my guys. When they came back again for a second pass at me, I read it, and I thought, it would be a pretty good idea not to miss this chunk of their lives. Which basically would mean that I go home after work. which is a rarity, real rarity. They normally go to a hotel room or a bar. And so I thought, well, okay, let's see what they've got. And they made it made it pretty good for me. Sounds good. You know, a pilot, could be a year, could be 6 years. So you have to be ready to jump in.
And so when Tim Roth joined up, we were really, really excited because he really brings all of those qualities to the part.
And originally, he was going to do it in an American accent, which tends to be how you see television. I thought it was really exciting that he kept his own accent.
And what Tim Roth does is, well, I mean, essentially the easiest thing to say is he busts liars. Something that we probably all want to do.
The biggest and the best piece of advice I got from Paul was that he was never on stage, so it didn't matter what he did. It didn't matter how his body responded, or everybody else was on stage and performing for him. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dr. Lightman.
You gonna try and have sex with my daughter tonight? So they're kind of mind detectives, I suppose. No, they're face detectives.
In the role of Foster, I always thought of her as a sort of incorrigible life lover, someone who had a really effervescent, natural sparkle to her. And Kelly Williams has exactly that.
Kelly won it in a screen test with Tim. At that point, Tim was set and trying to figure out what the right compliment for him was. And since he's British and American audiences sometimes will struggle to accept the character with accent, we wanted somebody really warm. And also he's, Lightman is written is abrasive and difficult.
It's a strange thing to go, first of all, to a screen test and pretend like you don't care and pretend like, it's just, oh, this is normal. I'm doing a scene with Tim Roth, who I happen to have been a fan of for a long time. So I really didn't want to muck it up. I thought I kept having this sort of inner dialogue of, oh God, just pretend you don't like his work or whatever. I was trying to do these things of just don't freak yourself out. He was pretty funny that day. We ended up doing 2 screen tests. And the first day, I think he'd just gotten off a long flight from Europe and was a bit jet lagged. It was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun.
What is that now?
Orange slushy.
How old are you?
But it went well. It went very well. It took a little bit of time to tell me, which I have to say, I resent slightly.
Lightman and Foster go back to, I think, working for the Defense Department. Probably they've been going for a long time. She knows him. She can read him, and she'll take him out in a second.
This isn't appropriate.
There's something she's not telling us. We're wasting
I'm
time.
sorry.
I'm sick of watching you cuddle these women.
Well, I'm sick of you derailing this investigation.
You can be a bitch sometimes.
Oh.
The actress who plays Rhea Torres, this was really her first series regular job coming out of Juilliard.
Sharon Klein at 20th Century Fox Casting called us and said, we saw this young woman, Monica Raymond. She's just out of Juilliard. She'll be perfect for the role. I'm going to send you her audition.
I had seen some audition tape of her and thought she was just spectacular.
I think they do a thesis performance or sort of final performance. I'd seen her and said, I think that this actress would be really great for Torres, and she had her first job, 5 or 6 days out of Juilliard.
I got out of college like 10 months ago.
Torres, from the beginning was going to be a character who would see through his lies and help us understand the truth of how he came to be in the position he's in.
Well, the character I play, Rhea, she's what's called a natural, and she doesn't have any of the scientific background or experience in determining who's lying. She basically is able to see liars based on her intuition and her experiences. So I didn't want to educate myself too much. I wanted to be able to figure it out as I went, as Monica, and learn along with Rhea.
She was going to be a catalyst to peeling back the various layers of Lightman and see through many of his lies. Of course, Lightman feels like there's nothing inherently wrong with lying. It's all about the application of the lie, what you're trying to achieve with the lie, and whether you're any good at it as well.
What is he?
Anger. She came in seeing the world in a very black and white perspective. Believing that you don't lie, you tell the truth. Lying is bad, telling the truth is good. And then she comes into the firm with Lightman and all these other guys, and realizes that, hey, you know, maybe the reasons for lying are a lot more complex than she originally thinks.
Lightman has a great deal of mistrust for Torres, and he doesn't like naturals around. You know, generally, it's not a good idea to call your boss an idiot.
I didn't say you were an idiot.
But your Buchanan did.
That's not...
Oh, that's a pretty impressive combination of contempt and disgust. Apology accepted.
The Loker character, we saw all sorts of different kinds of people for that role. Hyper-intellectual and more streety, and lots of different ways of playing the Loker character. And this idea of a guy who had chosen radical honesty and a slightly immature idea that if I just tell everyone exactly what I'm thinking, life will be great. And obviously it doesn't work out very well for him.
So Brendan came in and did the process. We ran through it a couple times. He was fantastic. And I called Sharon and I said, Sharon, how long are you going to be there? And she said, I'm going to be there X amount of time. And I said, I'm sending this guy over right now. So Brendan went over, read for Sharon and Sam, and he was great.
I was looking for someone who would be completely uninhibited. You know, the character has no filter. He's made this choice to say pretty much everything he thinks and always tell the truth. You know, part of the reason he does that is he's tired of having a separate self in different parts of his life. Meaning he's tired of having a professional self and then a with the guy's self and with his parents' self. And so instead he's just said, I'm going to let it all hang out, and whoever wants to hang out with me, can, and anyone who doesn't like me can move on.
That's what was fun about this character, was he wasn't just the perfect guy who's always, says the right things to the girl. I had just been doing a lot of that lately, and it was a fun role. It was a guy who offends people and who is really good at his job, but also happens to, have this compulsion to be brutally honest at all times, and that had so many different places to go that I was really excited by that.
I have no chance with you. Nope. Do I have any chance with you?
You always tell the truth?
Always.
How good are you in bed?
Fair?
Fair's better than most.
Brendan had this sort of intensity and intelligence, but also sweetness that he could get away with being fairly obnoxious.
I've never been with a Latina woman.
Don't push it.
You have actors like Tim and Kelly and Monica and Brendan, and they raise the bar for everyone else as well. And what you're trying to do is challenge Tim.
I've never seen a cast so invested in their characters and the stories. And so we get a lot of feedback on the scripts, which on the one hand is difficult because it's a lot of work to do. But on the other hand, I think makes the scripts better. I think the cast actually... Did you see me doing one-sided shrug right there?
You're gonna work.